Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Regan, for being here today. Appreciate it. So I'm going to go back to the waters of the U.S. You said in your opening remark that you want a durable and certain rule, and that's going to be, I think we'd agree, is best for everybody, correct?
I'm sorry?
You want to have a durable rule, correct?
Yes,
And that would be best for everybody if people had certainty, whether it's farmers or ranchers or small business people, correct?
that's correct.
Yeah. And you're familiar with the 1972 Clean Water Act, correct?
Yes.
And do you know how many times in that act the word navigable water appears?
No, I haven't counted that.
It's 50 times. 50 times in that act it says navigable waters. And I'm going to pull up the Merriam-Webster's dictionary here of the definition of navigable. And it says navigable, 1A, deep enough and wide enough to afford passage to ships. Navigable waterways, that's 1A. Then it goes on to 1B, capable of being navigated, like navigable terrain, and then 2 is capable of being steered. But the definition is pretty clear. Now, I'm from a landlocked state, and we don't have lots of oceans around Nebraska. But to me, navigable means you can put a boat on it and go someplace. And you cannot do that from a pond on a farm. You can't do it from a roadside ditch that is temporary, and you can't do it from a puddle on a construction site. And yet, it seems that is what you were trying to do with this rule, is extend that very clear definition of navigable to waterways that are clearly not navigable. And you talked about exemptions, but you don't need exemptions when you're very clear when it's very clear what Congress's intent was. Congress's intent could not have been more clear. Navigable waters, where you can put a boat and take a ship and go someplace. And that does not count for the things that you're trying to extend it for. This, to me, seems to be an expansion of executive power. And by the way, don't take it personally, Mr. Regan, because you're not the first administration to try and expand executive power. But you're trying to expand the definition beyond what is here. And my question then goes to, with the Sackett case coming up, won't the Sackett case, is it your opinion that the Sackett case is not actually going to clarify what navigable is with regard to these definitions?
Well, I really wish it was as simple as you've just laid out. But to your point, multiple administrations haven't gotten it right since 2015. The Supreme Court has weighed in multiple times. So it's not quite as clear as that picture you've painted. I do agree that the Sackett case will have some impact on the rule. And part of our calculation is this rule is designed to absorb whatever ruling the Sackett case renders so that we can move forward with that latest version of the law. The reason we did not wait is because we have a rule in place that will be impacted. We don't know how much, potentially, by Sackett, and we will adjust that rule and move forward. If we had waited until this ruling in June, we would have had to start a 2-year process, if not more, and that would have left a lot more uncertainty because of the vacature of the Trump rule and because the Obama rule was not in place.
So if the Sackett rule, the Supreme Court comes back and says, no, navigable actually means navigable as defined by Merriam-Webster here and what Congress's intent was in 1972, aren't you going to have to go through that 2-year waiting period all over again?
No, we believe that there are other aspects of WOTUS that we have already taken care of, and then we will adjust to that new definition. WOTUS is a little bit more expansive and impactful than just navigable waters. So we've taken care of all of those other externalities. We would adjust whatever decision we get from Sackett, and then we would be moving forward on what we predict to be a much shorter time frame.
Okay. I also note, and this is just a yes or no question, you mentioned the regional listening sessions. Didn't your staff clarify that those listening sessions don't count as official comments for the rule? Is that accurate?
Well, I think one of the reasons to do that, number one, is it never hurts to listen. Number two, we developed a very strong
partnership. It's a yes or no question, Mr. Regan.
Partnership with USDA.
Did your staff clarify that those don't count as official comments for the rule?
But it helps with implementation and execution.
But it doesn't count for official, is that right? Yes or no?
In terms of?
Yeah, I think your staff clarified that those comments don't count for the official comments on the rulemaking.
But they count towards how the rule is implemented and how we partner with USDA and the resources that USDA can bring to bear to help with the implementation of the rule. So those listening sessions were extremely valuable for both EPA and USDA.
Okay. So I want to switch gears on you real quick with the few seconds I've got left. With the new RFS rule, the EPA put out biomass guidelines for 3 years that are all below what EPA says is the 3.1 billion gallons, the capacity that the industry already has. Why did you set the targets below what the industry was already creating? And if you're going to do that, I would ask, do it for 1 year. Don't make it something that for 3 years when we know we're already at the capacity of 3.1 billion gallons and you've got it below 3 billion gallons. Why did you set it below that?
Well, I think that when we look at the lack of progress that have been made in the previous years, we had to go back and do the homework of a previous administration and catch up for 2020, 21, and 22. So we're looking at now we're looking at set rules in the future. We're trying to set these volumes for multiple years so that we can create some certainty in this space for the industry, which is what the industry has requested that we do. So I think the industry was pretty satisfied with where we landed on 2021, and now they're looking for that same trajectory and certainty in those out years.
Well, I'm talking about 2023, though. You're setting the amount below 3.1 billion gallons, which is what the industry capacity is already at. Why did you set the biomass goal below what the capacity is already at right now?
I'll take a look into sort of how to answer that question accurately.
Okay, thank you.